Okay, so recently I was looking at, and I don't know why I torture myself with these things, but sometimes I am dumb enough to read the Bleacher Report and a couple of other things like The Ringer and some other rags I should probably leave alone. And what I've noticed over the last maybe 3 years, maybe more, because I remember like a few years ago when the Bleacher Report first started out, it was just people just kept proposing crazy trades, and they would usually do it involving the Knicks because I would get the most clicks. See, what we need to understand is that the New York tri-state area, which is New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, has, well, the population of New York City is probably 8 million people. That's not including Long Island, which probably has another 4 million people. And then you have Connecticut, which probably has another 3 million, and that doesn't even include northern New Jersey. So you're probably talking about an area of 16 million people, 20 million people. And the majority of them are Knicks fans. And so the Knicks have the biggest fan market in basketball. That doesn't even include people like myself who are from New York but live in DC now, or people that are from all over the world that just love the Knicks. Okay? So oftentimes, I remember the Bleacher Report, and they still do this, they'll have clickbait using New York Knicks as the clickbait. Okay? And they put together, I remember back in the day, they put together some ridiculous trade proposals to get the fans riled up because that's how they make money from their drama. Okay. But unfortunately, what ends up happening sometimes is some of the fans take some of this garbage seriously. Okay. And especially in the era of information age, social media era in which we live, and NBA 2K. Because a lot of these young guys, these millennials, play the NBA 2K and they think you just buy and sell and trade guys, and that's just how it works. Think about it like this. If it was that easy to be a general manager, anybody could do it, right? If it was that easy, just, buy this one, trade this one, and just do it that way, anybody could do it. But not everybody is doing it. There's only 30 general managers in professional basketball, okay? And it's a high pressure job. And it's not as easy as everybody thinks it is. It's not NBA 2K. Okay. So recently, and it bothers me when some diehard New York Knicks fans take some of this garbage seriously. So I was on a couple of podcasts, listening to a couple of podcasts and a couple of live streams, some of my favorite live streams, actually, of New York Knicks basketball fans in live streams. And people were mentioning trading Mitchell Robinson. Then this morning, I noticed a Bleacher Report, which actually wasn't the first one that I've seen like this. A Bleacher Report article that mentioned trading Mitchell Robinson to move up in this 2020 draft. Let me just start off and say that is completely idiotic and stupid. Let me tell you why. Generally speaking, if you're an NBA team and you are the general manager and the president of basketball operations and the owner, just think of yourself. If you were in that position, aside from NBA 2K, you want your organization to have top-notch level management and scouting. Isn't that correct? So you would want your organization to know when it's looking at talent. Like if you're looking at a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid, you want your scouts to be able to know what they're talking about. So that when a Clarence Gaines tells you, look at this kid, Kristaps Porzingis. He's from Latvia. I think he's going to be a player. You want to be able to trust that Mr. Gaines knows what he's talking about. Okay, I'm just using that example because he was a tremendous evaluator of talent. So you want to trust that, because if he brings back somebody like a Fred Weiss, it makes your whole organization look bad. Okay, it makes you look like you have no idea what you're doing. So the Knicks have been embarrassed enough, and other teams as well, so that over time, the NBA figured out when they created a rookie scale for salaries, they figured out that it takes rookies about 4 years to figure out the NBA game. Okay, about 4 years. So that's why, if you notice, all the first round contracts are 4-year contracts, because it takes that long for them to figure it out. Now, I come from the old school, I admit. And when I was in my teens or 20s, generally when players came out of college, they were over 21 years old. Like, they could drink. They were over 21 years old when they came out of college. Okay, they weren't 18. It was rare for an 18-year-old to come to the NBA. And the reason was because there was a lot of talented people that might have made it, but were overwhelmed because of their youth with the whole NBA lifestyle, the game, and everything. Okay. There was players like a Chris Washburn. You probably never heard of him. Tremendous talent. See, there's guys that are so superiorly talented physically on an NBA floor. It's like when they're in high school and college, they look like a man playing against boys because they're just so superiorly talented. Okay. But then there's a mental part of the game, and Chris Washburn, unfortunately, no pun intended, washed out of the NBA because he wasn't mentally or mature able to handle the NBA. There was another kid in the 90s, Coleon Young. Gifted. Couldn't make it. And he was only 18 when he came out. So back in the day when players came out of college at 21, sometimes 22 years old. So even then though, they'd be like 24, 25, 26 when they actually figured out the game. Okay. Now there were some exceptions. Like I said, like a basketball savant, like a Magic Johnson, who came out at 19. And actually, I was following him in high school because I was about his same age. And he was killing NBA players when he was 17. Okay. Or Isaiah Thomas, who came to the Rucker in New York when he was 18 and was destroying all the NBA players. So you know these guys could play. Okay. So when they came out, like Magic came out after his sophomore year, and so did Isaiah Thomas. He came out after his sophomore year. They were like 20 years old, and they were ahead of their time. They were already prepared to play. But that was the not the rule. That was not the rule. That was more like the exception. Most guys need years to develop. So when you have a player, and within his first 4 years, he's showing you some things. First of all, you don't trade him because it makes your staff look bad. It makes your scouting look bad. When you start looking to trade a player that's not even in his 5th year yet, haven't even gotten out of his rookie deal. Another one of the reasons the Knicks have stunk over the last 20 years is because the last player they signed out of their rookie deal, right, was Charlie Ward. They've traded everybody else before the rookie deal was over. All right? Channing Frye, Trevor Ariza. Okay? They traded everybody before the rookie deal was even over. They drafted Nene Hilario and they traded him before he ever got here. Okay? So they've never had a development system. They had good scouts because they found Mitchell Robinson in the 2nd round. They had good scouts because they found Damian Dotson in the 2nd round. And in spite of the fact that they just waived them, they found Alonzo Trier as an undrafted guy. So they have good scouts. Okay. But now they didn't have any development. They haven't had development for 20 years, and they haven't had development recently until Leon Rose came. And now you have a whole bunch of staff that's apparently pros at development, coming from a Utah system in Walt Perrin and Johnny Bryant, coming out of a Utah system. You have a head coach that's defensive oriented, Tom Thibodeau. Okay. So apparently, and then of course they brought back Mike Woodson, who also is good at development. He brought along Iman Shumpert before the Knicks traded him, but he did a good job in Atlanta before that as the head coach. So now you have a development team, you have a general manager that appears to know what he's doing, and now the owner's backing off. Okay, so you don't trade a player that you got in the 2nd round. That not only that, his agent screwed him. How do I know that? Mitchell Robinson's agent had him sign a 4-year deal where he was only making $1.6 million per year. That's highway robbery for a guy that talented. Okay? And when I remember seeing it, I was like, who is this guy's agent? Because he messed the kid up. That's why Mitchell Robinson ended up firing the agent. Smart move. Okay? But we got him locked in at $1.6 million. Okay? And he's already, in his first 2 seasons, in the top 10, top 5 in block shots. He has shown amazing athleticism on the floor. And then this past year, he set the record for field goal percentage. That's not a small thing, okay? So, and people are talking about trading him. You don't trade players like that for unknown entities. So, you have a LeBron James or a Magic Johnson or a Luka Doncic that you can tell, like I said, they're men playing against boys before they get to the NBA. Men playing against boys. And it's not just their physical thing like we talked about Chris Washburn or Coleon Young. Mentally, they're playing chess when all the other players are playing checkers. They're thinking 3 steps ahead on every play. Okay? And they remember tendencies from games that people have forgotten. These are basketball savants. All right? There's nobody like that in this draft. The only 2 players that I would trade Mitchell Robinson for are Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I'm trying to think of somebody else. I wouldn't trade him for LeBron James at age 36. What, to make the playoffs for 1 year? That's stupid. Okay? You don't do that. So, Giannis, maybe Anthony Davis, maybe like there's a handful of players, like a top player that's been proven. You do not trade Mitchell Robinson in a draft where you don't really know what you're getting, when he's a proven entity and he's just turned 22 years old. And now you have a development staff that can really get him to the next level. You don't even think about that. When somebody calls and they say their name Mitchell Robinson, you hang up the phone. And so you have, like I said, the Knicks have drafted very well for the last three drafts, okay? 4 drafts. You had 2017, you got Frank Ntilikina and Damian Dotson. 2018, you got Kevin Knox, and then I think you got Alonzo Trier. 2019, you got RJ Barrett, okay? And Iggy Brazdeikis. They've been drafting very well. Let me tell you something, Knicks fans. You don't think about trading any of these guys until their 5th year. It's not even about how many years they've been in the league, or it's about how old are they? How mature are they? How hard are they working? Because you don't know what any of them. I have people say Frank Ntilikina is never going to be this or that. You have no idea what he's going to be. You have no idea. Until he's in his 4th or 5th year. Now, this is his 4th year coming up. So this is going to be a telling year for him. Okay? And so you have to wait until you actually get 4 years. But the problem in the New York market is first you get media like Bleacher Report putting out garbage, and then you get some fans buying it. If you know anything about basketball, anything about pro basketball, you should understand it takes time to develop players. Not everybody's going to come out and bust it up like Luka Doncic. Not everybody's going to do that. That's a rarity. Or even in their 2nd year, like a Trae Young. That's not something players just do. All right? It's not normal. These are really good players. And even then, a Donovan Mitchell, who was drafted, 13th? Who knew? Do you realize that Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest players to ever play the game, was drafted 13th by the Charlotte Hornets? And do you know that the Charlotte Hornets traded his rights for Vlade Divac? in 1996? Do you think they regret that now? So I'm saying to you all, if you really want the Knicks to win, like I do, you want them to be in championship conversation in the future, don't trade any of your young players. Don't do it. Until you get to the point where the Nets were when they got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Where were they? The Nets, under Billy King, made one of the dumbest trades in history when they traded away like 5 first-rounders for over-the-hill Kevin Garnett, over-the-hill Paul Pierce, and over-the-hill Terry. Okay? Because they wanted to win right away, like a lot of you Knicks fans. Those picks became Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and look where the Celtics are. Okay? It doesn't happen by accident. So they hired Kenny Atkinson, and now they had no choice but to try to find talent in the scrap heap. So what did they do? And develop that talent. So they got Spencer Dinwiddie, who had already been flunked out by the Detroit Pistons. Okay? They got Joe Harris, who was basically G League. They drafted Jarrett in the center in like late first round. And they had to make a deal to get that pick. And they turned these guys into NBA players, solid players. That's what we have to think like. We're in a better position than the Nets were. We have draft picks all the way until 2023. We have 2 first rounders this year, 2 next year, and 2 in 2023, and then our own one in 2022. So we got 7 draft picks in the next 4 drafts. We drafted young players, good young kids that are from 18 years old, basically. Drafted Frank, he was 18. Drafted Knox, he was 18. Got Mitchell Robinson at 19. You don't trade these guys at all. You try to develop them and get them to the point where your team is winning 42, 45 games. And then at that point, you may trade one of them. Because at that point, their value is so high, you might be able to get a superstar. Or you get a superstar that's looking at your team and saying, you know what? I think I can be the last piece to get them over the top. Like Kawhi Leonard in Toronto. Okay? Or like Durant is thinking he's going to be in Brooklyn. I think I'm the last piece to get them over the top. No, and this is the thing. I want y'all to understand something. All you people out here thinking that we need to save cap money for 2021, wake up. There's no NBA player that's in the top 25 that wants to come to the Knicks. Nobody at that level wants to come to a rebuilding team. Okay? You're going to only get guys that's below that, and they're only coming to New York because they want to get the bag. They want to get paid. So the best players we can get at that level is what we need, which we know we need, is shooters. We need shooters. And this particular year, 2020, you have the best shooters in the NBA on the market. They're not all two-way players. They're not all multi-dimensional, but they can shoot the lights out. I did a video already, and I told y'all, Marcus Morris, Bertans, Gallo, Jeremy Grant. I told y'all, on the wings, Joe Harris, Malik Beasley, on the wings, Duncan Robinson, Bogdan Bogdanovic. These guys are all available now, and we got the money. So we need to spend the money anyway. Don't sign these guys, because another problem we've had with the Knicks, aside from dumb trades, another problem we've had is every year we're looking for a new team. If we bring in this guy, bring in that guy every year. If you look at the last 3 years, we almost overhauled the whole roster every year. You need to have some continuity. This is the year we can do it. Okay? So, like one person suggested, Marcus Morris and Bertans. That would be nice. You have Marcus Morris at the 4, Bertans can play the 3 or the 4. And then you put RJ at the 2 and you have Frank starting at the point. And the rookies come off the bench. We get a Vassell. He comes off the bench. I like this guy, Bain, with the 27th pick. I like him. To come up, if we can get a guy like that to come off the bench as well, that can shoot. Okay. You bring the rookies off the bench and give them that development time. Let Tom Thibodeau put his foot all up in their behind and let them work really hard and learn the game. So that when these 2 or 3 year contracts that I suggest we pay, like for example, it was me, I give Marcus Morris a 2-year deal, somewhere around $32 million. I give Bertans, if you could do either or. I give Bertans 3 years, $54 million. If he wanted more, I give him 4 years, $60 million. See, because for the players, it's not just the per year salary. It's the length of the contract as well. So Bertans might be looking at, 4 years, $60 million. I don't think he's going to get better than $18 million a year. He's a tremendous shooter. One of the greatest shooters in the NBA in the recent 10-year history has been JJ Redick, and he signed for like $20 million for a 1-year deal a couple of times. So I don't think Harris is going to get more than that. But if you need to, I don't think we do, but you go 3 years, $54 million, or you go 4 years, $60 million. If you don't like that, look at somebody else. Bogdanovich will take that. Bogdanovich will take that. Duncan Robinson will take that. Okay. So we could get a shooter, but I'm thinking get Bertans in here, get Marcus Morris in here, or get Bertans and Jeremy Grant. Now you got Mitchell Robinson, Jeremy Grant, Bertans along the front line. You got Vassell coming off the bench. Okay. With Dot. I think we could probably get the Duke kid, Trey Jones, probably with our 38th pick. It's somewhere in the second round. We can get that kid and he'll be a good backup. We could either sign a veteran. I'd rather get that kid. He'd be a good backup to Frank. Solid. He's not spectacular, but he ain't gonna make a lot of mistakes either. The kid's like 22 years old, 23 years old. So he's a grown man. He's gonna be more mature. That's how you build a team, right? That's how you get the foundation for a championship team. All right. Only guy I bring back from this year's free agent class is Taj Gibson. That's the only guy I really bring back. Some people think Bullock, possibly, depending on the cap. Because if Marcus is going to cost us, let's say $16 million on the high side for 2 years, and let's say Bertans is going to cost us $18 million, that's $34 million right there of our cap space. Okay. All right. We have $50 million in cap space. So then you're going to have to exercise Taj's option. That brings up to 43. All right. So probably we could afford to keep Bullock because he's $4 million. That brings us to 47. But if the cap was lowered back to 109, we couldn't afford Bullock. But that's fine. I'd go with what we got. Get the kid. If we could get Vassell, if we can get a Bain, a shooter late in the first round. I like Neesmith. I don't think we can get him though. I think he's going to be gone. And I don't want to risk messing up our team to try to get him. Nobody in this draft is worth doing that for. I know I put together a video on trade possibilities with Golden State, but I just did that because of all this noise about everybody wanting Ball. And my fear is that the Knicks management is actually believing this. I'm fearful of that. I don't want them to get Ball. Ball is flashy. Flashy don't win games. Your behind the back passes look good. No look passes look nice. But that don't win games. If you wanted to play for the Harlem Globetrotters, that would be nice. But we want to win. We want to win. We got a winning point guard. His name is Frank Ntilikina. He's only going to finish his 3rd year after 4 coaches and no development. Now we finally got development. And he's already a defensive player. Nobody's getting past him on the point of attack down the lane. I don't care who it is. Kemba Walker already felt the wrath. Kyrie Irving already felt the wrath. They ain't getting past him at the point of attack. You just need to put somebody next to him half decent, and I believe RJ is that man. Especially if he signs some people. So please, check all this stuff about trading any of our young guys, whether it be Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, and especially don't even talk about Mitchell Robinson. Don't even talk about him. Please put that in check. Shalom.